Welcome to the Filmcast review of Novocaine. I'm going to read the plot summary from the internet. When the girl of his dreams gets kidnapped, a man turns his inability to feel pain into an unexpected advantage as he fights a bunch of thugs to get her back. End quote. Devindra Hardwar, I think your thoughts and my thoughts about Jack Quaid are pretty similar. In the sense that we find him mildly irritating, but also
perfectly fine. Yeah.
But also talented to some degree.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I have been a fan of like his willingness to basically make himself look bad. You know, like we saw him in Companion and Scream, and he has this kind of like dopey, nice guy persona, but he's really willing to push the limits of that. And I think this movie is another instance of that in some aspects. I am really curious, given your feelings about Jack Quaid's whateverness, literally, what did you think about Novocaine?
I think it's perfectly fine. You know, like this is a really great concept for an action movie, and this is a low budget, really small stakes kind of film, and I think it does some really cool stuff here. So I had a lot of fun with it. But yes, I'm also I think I'm just tired of seeing Jack Quaid because he is doing the same thing over and over again. And have to say, this movie sets up the premises. He's a guy who can't feel pain. He's had to live his life with certain compromises because of that. Like, he's being afraid to eat solid food. We could talk about this in spoilers, but I feel like if that is how you've had to approach life because you are afraid you cannot feel the dangers of pain, I think he would not be as equipped to be an action hero. You know,
it's the power of love, Devindra.
It's the power of love, but he would not be a fit action guy is the thing. And this is wild that this is the movie where Jack Quaid like clearly worked out a lot because his whole facial structure looks different than it does on The Boys. No, like he looks like he is ripped. You see him in promo photos for this thing. He's like ripped in that leather jacket. He's trying to be a cool action guy. I'm like, the very premise of your movie is that you're afraid of doing things and living life because you can't feel pain. You can never work out.
Protein shakes, Devindra.
He only eats protein shakes. You can never work out. You can never actually do something that stresses your body because you would never be fit for this. Anyway, otherwise, perfectly fun, fine movie. I think Amber Midthunder is a lot of fun in this. Poor Jacob Batalon, who I think is just forever going to be in this role. He is going to be the nice guy best friend. And it's a shame because I think he is a lot of fun in this movie.
Good. He plays the guy in the chair in the Spider-Man films, and he's basically the guy in the chair in this movie as well. So.
It's like he's the same character.
It's the same character.
It's the same character,
except he has a motorcycle now. So that kind of bugs
it's literally
me too.
like if he said, "I just got off the phone with Peter Parker. Give me a second," I would believe it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I made the Wolverine joke because I was like, It's sort of like he had the bad Wolverine powers, right? Like he can't feel pain. It's like inverse Wolverine, right? But he's vulnerable, but he can't feel pain. Wolverine can feel pain, but he's invulnerable technically. Just kind of a funny thing. I am genuinely worried that Jack Quaid is like on whatever short list to be the next Wolverine. Don't listen. He's a perfectly nice guy. Wolverine's special character. Don't make Jack Quaid Wolverine for the love of God.
He's not going to be Wolverine.
Jeff Kanata, your thoughts on Novocaine?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts on Novocaine are best summed up in the form of a limerick.
Oh, let's hear it, Jeff.
It was so hard to overcome when he forcibly broke his own thumb. The movie is fine, but it crosses a line. This Novocaine don't make me numb.
Is it... I guess you're saying it's not effective? Is that what you're trying to say? That one's a puzzler.
I'm saying
that's a puzzler.
The heebie-jeebies a bit.
Okay.
I don't like watching a person do what he does to himself in this movie. You're supposed to think it's super cool.
Yeah.
To like,
it's not cool. It's disturbing.
It's not. None of it is. I don't know. I agree with Devindra. This movie's fine. It's hard to come up with real criticisms of it, but it also. I'm not going to come out with a huge recommend. Like, it's not awesome. It's fine. There's some fun stuff that happens. It does feel like some people got in a room and went, what are all the things that you could do if you didn't feel pain? Like, what? Let's just riff on them, and then let's put them all in the movie. Let's just contrive moments where he has to do all those things, and none of them were fun for me. I mean, they're all just sort of like icky. It's just icky. It's like the problem is, as Devindra so astutely pointed out, he ain't Wolverine, right? He's not healing from this stuff. He's not okay. His body is incapable of telling him how wrong that is. Pain is a communication device because we were dumb apes that were evolving and just doing stupid shit. And the body went, you know what? To keep you alive, I'm going to have to give you a real strong no on some of that stuff. And so we developed this nervous system that said, hey, don't do that. That is bad for you. That you're going to avoid that because I'm going to make it so uncomfortable for you that you don't want to do that. This poor sap doesn't have that communication. And so he puts his body through truly terrible things for our entertainment, I guess. And I don't know if that's entertaining to me. It's like, he's not. There's a moment at the very beginning of the movie where he explains what he has, and someone says to him, "Well, that's like you're a superhero." And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not like you're a superhero." You know, it is like, yes, you do need to protect yourself because you're incapable of knowing what's too far.
Yep.
Now, this movie is not working on that level, right? It's working on just the silly fun. Like, you got to just like let that go and have fun with the fact that, oh, he can get stabbed and chopped and all that stuff, and it doesn't feel pain. But it's like, yes, but your body, there's moments where he like can't walk. Yep. He's like tries to walk. He's like, oh, that's weird. My leg don't work. It's like, yeah, because there's horrible things that happen to it. You know, like it just feels like we're watching a man enter into a terrible future life state. He's going to be handicapped, you know, beyond all reasonable expectation for a girl that just does not appreciate that. and I don't know. It wants to be a kind of charming rom-com, and it kind of accomplishes it. And it wants to be a badass action movie, and it kind of accomplishes it. But overall, like, this wasn't a home run for me. It's fine. It's fine. Like the action sequences, there's a few that are okay. It's nothing to write home about, nothing super memorable. I mean, it's memorable in that he does horrible things to himself, but I didn't find joy in that in the way that I think the movie wanted me to.
I'll start by saying that I am generally uncomfortable with movies using disorders or disabilities and like making that into like a superpower, right? Like I generally find that to be like an uncomfortable thing.
I think M. Night Shyamalan would have a word with you.
I was going to say M. Night Shyamalan has done it frequently over the course of several years.
It's most of his career.
It's most of his work. And because I think that like it feels like it's one of the only ways that at least people in America can consume stories about differently abled people, and you know, I don't like that that's the case. So I do just want to let people know I have that concern in general, and it is kind of like in the back of my mind when I watch movies like this. Having said all that, I had a blast with this movie. I think that I enjoyed this movie more than either of you, and there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, I think that the way Jeff described something as being negative, he's like, people got into a room and they riffed on like, what could a person do if they didn't have pain? And then they went in and did all those things. I actually think there's some real legitimate ingenuity on a script level that made that happen. They're like, oh, here's a thing here's a sort of way this guy experiences the world that's different. Like, how could we use that in action scenes in ways that are novel? And the movie then does proceed to do that multiple times, like in different ways. It doesn't just do the same thing over and over again. There's like different takes on it. And the movie needs to contrive all these weird setups to make that happen. And I think it does a really great job at that. So like, I actually appreciated that. I also think that this movie has no action for the first, I'm going to say 30 minutes. And it's like 90-minute runtime.
Just a rom-com. Yeah.
It's just a
rom-com,
rom-com,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that's like it's great that the movie's like, hey, we're gonna spend some time developing the relationship between these characters, and it's like
Mhm.
movies don't generally take that time anymore. It's got, hey, we have to grab people's attention. We have to have an action scene in the first 5 minutes, or else like the person's not gonna pay, the viewer's not gonna pay attention or care. This movie's like, no, we're gonna like movies like Die Hard, like they're great because we spent time like developing these characters and before the action kicked off. And yes, this movie is much more silly than Die Hard, but it had that kind of ethos of, hey, like we're going to make you care about these characters before we do some really, really silly things with them. So
it also is similar to Die Hard in the sense that it really embraces the fact that this is a regular Joe
yes,
in an extraordinary situation.
yeah. So I like that it kind of followed that template, and so I actually really, really enjoyed this movie, and was grateful to be able to watch it and in a theater, and I just think it's a great time. So I liked it more than either of you. Would recommend it if you're into like a solid, funny action movie. And yeah, it gets the David Chen seal of approval. Let's get to spoilers for Novocaine starting right now. All right, we're in spoilers for Novocaine right now. Guys, I also got to say, I really enjoyed the reveal that Amber Midthunder's character was one of the bad guys.
The one
I thought
surprise
that was
in that
cool.
movie for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
It was cool, but
and-
it makes you
and-
feel like, oh man, just stop,
Yeah,
dude.
poor
Stop doing
guy.
that stuff to yourself,
Poor
buddy.
guy.
But the movie had its cake and ate it too, right? Because
That's the
basically,
Mhm.
I think.
well, because essentially, like Amber Midthunder's character, she is in on the heist, but then by the end, she's like, actually, I really care about this guy, and that convinces him, hey, it was all worth it in the end. But
It
you
makes
think that's
no-
a problem, Jeff?
It makes no damn sense, as our thing would say. That because here's what I needed the movie to do. Here's what I needed
Yeah.
the movie to do that it did not do. I needed to when we get the big reveal that she's one of the bad guys, I needed to have a moment where I went, "Oh, she was trying to get the key from him or the
Mhm.
code from him."
Right.
But the movie never
right.
does that. It totally cheats. And that sucks because it needed to have embedded her actually trying to manipulate him into giving us the code without us clocking that, but only able to then retroactively realize that she was. That's what an excellent script would have done, where that reveal would have been like, oh, that's why she did that weird thing that I didn't realize at the time
Yeah,
was weird.
You're right. It doesn't quite go there, Jeff, but I do think the idea is that they used the threat against her to get Jack Quaid to open the safe. Like,
But her brother says, the whole reason we were supposed to believe that she came on to him, asked him out on a date, all those things for one reason. And yet she never at any point even attempts to bring it up. She never brings up work. Okay, I will grant you, I will suspend my disbelief that at some point she actually falls for him and then doesn't want to just manipulate him. But we have to retroactively have seen.
No. But I'm saying during the robbery, they threaten her life, and they say, if you don't open the safe, we're going to hurt this woman.
I understand that. I totally.
Right.
But that's plan B.
That's
plan B.
That's true. That's true. But I'm saying
like
it's not like it was completely unrelated to.
No. But
you can still go back and see. Oh, I guess there was a purpose for her to seduce him. Is what I'm saying.
Well, okay. But that we are explicitly told that they only had to do that because she failed at mission A, which she never attempts.
Right,
we never see her attempt mission A.
I agree with you about that. Yeah.
The one thing I mean, the sort of like red flag with her is the shots with the pepper sauce. I'm like, oh, that's a fun like rom-com gag. That bartender would be in jail if they actually did that. That you can kill a person by doing that. Actually. I'm sorry.
You're right.
Gaping plot hole.
That is the most unrealistic thing.
It is the most unrealistic thing.
I mean,
red flag,
there's a bunch
fellas.
of dumb shit that's like, dude,
yes.
There's no universe where he's gonna tattoo the address on his hand just because he can't feel pain. You want to have that tattooed on your hand forever?
Well,
like, come on.
He's in exigent circumstances, Jeff. I mean, that's the thing is you really have to believe this guy is willing to blow up his life. After spending one night with Amber Midthunder, and it's
the
like,
guy
okay,
who's too
I
afraid
understand.
to eat solid food. He's ready to blow up his life. And there's no reason he should be doing any of this. He does have that call with the police, like, you meet that one person, you're gonna do anything to save them. After a certain point, you're not like, you can't shoot. You're not trained to fight all these dudes. Like, at least work with the police.
I'm just imagining
you're not
you guys.
your friend.
I'm imagining you guys reviewing Die Hard back in the day. Why is John McClane's
He's
not
a
equipped to handle
He
this
is a cop. He is a cop with, I think, military service. He is experienced.
Okay,
He
fair
is
enough.
built for that shit. He has
And there's
spent his
no
whole
one
life
else that can do
preparing-
anything. He's literally
There's
on the
nobody else.
phone with the other cops.
Yes.
Going, I gotta do this, dude. You're not doing shit. These other
That
cops
is-
are like, stand down, bro. We
Yeah.
got this. And he's
Yeah.
like, no. My love is too strong.
Yeah. Okay.
Die Hard is a rock solid script.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think actually addresses a lot of these things and gives us a character who would be functional in that scenario.
Yeah. And he's
This
trapped.
guy is a bank teller or a bank manager who is too afraid to eat solid food.
Yeah.
I don't
Agreed. And
you
like,
guys bring up some
come
good
on.
points.
John
You guys bring
McClane
up some
is-
good points.
John McClane is trapped in that situation. This
Yes.
dude like has to steal a police car to pursue them. It makes no fucking sense.
Doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. I have been making the Wolverine jokes though, because at one point he does do the Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill somebody
Which-
with the bone. Yeah.
Well, he
Oh,
also
wow.
does.
I
He
thought
also
you were talking
gets
about the pounding the
claws.
glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, pounding
yeah.
the claw, he gets the claws, but literally bone claw. He bone clawed somebody
Yeah.
with an actual piece of bone. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of depraved stuff that he does to people in this movie, and I'm like,
Yes.
man, that bank teller's got issues. You know, like if you're, I don't think I'm capable. No matter how much pain I
Yes.
don't feel, I don't think
Yes.
I'm capable of slashing someone's eyes out with glass. I don't think I
Yeah.
could do that. I'm sorry.
he really escalated his whole like experience pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also, all that tattoo scene was just a lot. It was a lot.
Well, okay. First of all, guys, I really think you guys are underselling how fun this movie is, because there's this moment where he's like, "Hey, you guys know our friend Sam or whatever his name? How would you think his last name is pronounced?" I mean,
That's
that is
funny.
brilliant.
They're funny
That is
bits.
a brilliant.
They're funny
thing.
bits.
Jeff, I thought you would appreciate that. Like, how would you? That's a Jeff Canada. That's the thing Jeff Canada would say. It's like, how would
It's
you think
funny.
his last name is pronounced?
What's your
And
last
then-
name,
that dude
Mr.
is like,
Burns?
gets
Yeah.
it immediately and is like, "Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah." It's do we ever get the
Because
payoff
his-
of what his last name actually is?
Yeah, his last name is Clark. So it's like,
Oh yeah.
oh,
yeah.
there's no reason you wouldn't know how Clark is pronounced.
yeah.
So that's why I'm going to kill you now.
Also, the guy who literally rigs his house with like
Booby traps.
Booby traps. Yeah.
not just booby traps, but just like medieval booby traps. for
Looney
some
Tunes
reason.
traps, like Looney Tunes level traps.
Yeah, and then we get
Imagine
the
that guy
joke of,
getting
like,
up to go use the bathroom at night and making one false move. You're done. You're done, buddy.
Well, and also like the odds that you would. By the way,
Yes.
we
Yes.
see what's his name? You know, Spider-Man's best friend, who is demonstrably much shorter than everybody else in the scene, and yet the thing is perfectly positioned for his head. All of that, but we get the joke of like, oh, I guess he really likes Home Alone. I'm like, you know what? That joke does not excuse the amount of suspension of disbelief that I have to get into. That this is how the guy would defend his house. Come on, that's not how he would defend his house. He would not create a freaking ball mace thing that would. That's just so inefficient and dumb.
Imagine having friends over, like you invite a couple friends over for the game. Guys, watch out for mace trap, arrow trap,
I don't understand.
hallway.
Sorry,
smash
so
trap.
Jeff, how do you think he would defend his house then? If not for, because I think the crossbow is a reasonable thing.
You do?
You know?
Sure.
I don't know. ADT security system. How about that? Easily purchasable.
You mean people that call the cops? Is that what this criminal would get ADT
How about
security system?
literally anything that was made after, I don't know, 1200 AD.
Well, he doesn't want to alert other people, right?
Maybe
Like, he doesn't
he's
want
a
there
bit
to
of
be
a Luddite.
gunshot.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not into new tech. He's an old tech guy.
Yeah.
So it has to be all pulleys and like strings.
Yeah,
and
whenever
stuff
there's
for
a
him.
gunshot, like the neighbors will hear about it. So he just wants this guy to suffer and die in silence, you know? So
He's
anyway.
got that one place that you can't stand that'll hoist you upside down. That one spot. Don't spend in the one spot. Just ridiculous, dude. Come on.
I did think that was a very fun scene where he tries to convince the guy to actually torture him. That's just like classic slapstick, humor of like these two characters are in completely different dynamics,
I think it's funny, but like he also will never get those fingernails back. That's not
fingernails grow back.
Just because you can't feel me.
Fingernails grow back, but still,
I don't know, dude. I mean, look it up because I don't think they do. Like,
I'm pretty sure they do.
There's a lot of things he won't get back. Like, I'd be more worried about blood loss, like to the point where it's like, oh yeah, head chopped off. Like, what was the final thing? Where it's like, oh, that would be bad. You can't.
Anybody that is going to torture you.
Mm-hmm.
Very likely that there's things that are never going to be the same with you.
Oh,
Not just because you don't feel pain.
Absolutely. I mean,
the whole thing, I had a hard time having fun with it because I just kept thinking these are terrible decisions.
Terrible life decisions. This movie should have multiple sequels, and in every one he should have further and further long-term issues, based on what happens in every single movie.
I gotta say, I did appreciate though that like a blow to the head he didn't shrug it off, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's not just that it's painful; it literally does something to you, right?
Yeah.
It's not something. Maybe he didn't feel pain, but I did appreciate that the movie showed him, woozy and he would get hit and he wouldn't feel pain, but like that's not the only issue when you get struck to the face. So I did appreciate that about it.
I thought the movie had a really weird ending because it wanted to acknowledge the role of the legal system, but also I don't believe that's actually how that would have played out.
Yeah, you got off, you're fine. It's all good.
You got off, you're fine.
All good.
You had a character witness.
But I did like they're like, you're a white banker, so they're not going to do anything to you.
You're good. You're good.
That was funny.
Your lady friend, she seems a little less white, so she's going to be in jail for a while. Just keep her in.
But yeah,
just to be safe.
And then I guess he's completely healed after a year, so everything's fine. But but then Amber Midthunder's character ends up in jail for a little bit, so it's like, okay, so they wanted to acknowledge like a little bit of reality, but not necessarily like full reality. Because usually what happens at the end of these movies is like the guy and the girl like walk off into the sunset and everything's fine. But in this one, they're like, actually, there were some minor legal consequences.
There were issues. It's like
it's a weird kind of note to end
half
on.
measures.
Yeah, half measures.
It's a little rough.
Anyway.
Also, R.I.P. Matt Walsh's character. Always fun to see him in something.
Oh man, he was great.
Matt Walsh from Veep. Yeah.
He had a couple of one-liners I'm not recalling at the moment, but they were excellent.
He knew what movie he was in.
Rye one-liners.
I also gotta say, Ray Nicholson, who plays Simon in the movie, did a great job as the kind of psycho brother in this movie. I thought he did a good job. Also, Jack Nicholson's son. Yeah. By the way,
you can tell every time he smiles like that. The Smile 2 poster was literally just him doing the Jack Torrance smile. So he's getting a lot just based on his genetics at this point.
A Quaid and a Nicholson in this movie?
Yeah.
No problems on Hollywood, folks.
No problems.
No problems.
So I want to know what you guys thought was the worst injury sustained. Or one you would least want.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first ones. Like the first action scene with the Santa is when the gun lands in the boiling hot oil.
100% agree.
Yeah,
Fry
that's
your
like
hand.
It's
bad.
But I like
Kentucky Fried Hand. No, thank you.
The movie like set the bar. That it's like, hey, we're gonna start here, and then literally like nothing else is gonna be that bad, in my opinion. Right.
Well, I love how people keep commenting on it the rest of the movie.
Oh, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's eczema. It's really flared up." That was very funny. But the movie did such a good job of like showing how awful that would be, because it like first of all like the way like the camera movement like goes over the gun and it's like, oh, it's just boiling in this oil, and then he like reaches in and you see like his skin is just like sloughing off his hand afterwards. It's like
as soon as the gun fell into the oil, I knew that was where we were headed,
and he held on to it for so long afterwards. It's like, you gotta run that thing underwater, man. Like you gotta put some ice on that.
Can't tell at all.
Yeah.
Terrified of biting his own tongue off, but Fry a hand. Let's do it. Let's go there.
I also think like the arrow through the leg, and then he shoves the arrow through both legs to kill the guy.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Jeff. That there's something about like that's a horrifying way to kill someone, you know.
It's
and
pretty
like
bad.
even if you could feel no pain, you'd probably be really upset by that.
Oh my
you know?
God.
It's really upsetting. I mean, the thing
You've gone through your whole life as a normal human being. You fall in love and now you're stabbing people through the head with an arrow? Come on.
Yeah. Oh, I think the setup to this movie is actually really good in terms of how it establishes their relationship, but also him as a person. Like, nobody told me. People said I would not be alive past 25, and like you have a lot of sympathy for this character. And I guess it just cashes all that in for everything he does after.
Yeah. I thought it was cool, like seeing his house in the morning, and he has all these like tennis balls on everything to prevent him from, getting injured.
Yeah.
And there's some cool like world building stuff there. But anyway,
the other thing that I found disturbing that I couldn't think about too long because I would get too weirded out is when his head is trapped under the tire.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that is so disturbing to me, and I don't know why. I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie before, but it feels like just a total no-brainer of the hydraulic lift like crushing someone. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we're really like 2 for 2 this week in terms of recommending things that trigger Jeff Kanata specifically.
This is a trigger week for me, for
There's
sure.
a lot of body horror in this movie, like more than I expected.
Yeah,
because this movie is directed by the guys who did Stakeland 2, which I've never seen, but they've done a lot of horror in the past from what I've seen.
I gotta say, I think I have never liked Jack Quaid's character in The Boys. I thought he's kind of an annoying presence to me. But I really appreciate that he's like taking chances these days. He's making this movie Novocaine. Companion is a movie he was in recently as well.
I don't understand your guys' distaste for him. I like him.
I'm just seeing too much of him.
First of all, I just said I liked him in both of those movies. Yeah. Also, he was in the most recent Scream movie, right? Or two Screams ago, whatever it was. Whatever the Scream movie he was in, he was good in. I actually think these movies deserve better. Like none of the movies I just mentioned, other than Scream, like did particularly well. Yeah, and I think they actually deserve better at the box office. People should like check these out because they're cool movies and he does a good job with them.
Excellent.
Yes, for sure. All right, folks. Well, at the end of the day, it is really impressive that Dan Berk and Robert Olsen made a movie. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.